Well, hello, 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 and welcome. It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and today we are celebrating this incredible gentleman who was determined to seek equality and justice for all. He made changes not only in his own United States of America, but transformed the entire world. So today, I'd like to honor Dr. King by talking to us about the power of determination. Now, for Dr. King, it started at quite a young age when he was just beginning to go to high school and realized that he would have to stand at the back of the bus, even though there were empty seats at the front. And he said this: every time I get on that bus, I leave my mind up there on the front seat. And I said to myself that one of these days, I'm going to get my body up there where my mind is. It is a beautifully poetic and perfect definition of determination. Set your mind to where you want to be and keep going until one day your body gets to where your mind is at. When they set hoses and dogs on women and children, they kept their mind focused on equality and justice for all. When people were spat upon, brutalized, arrested, and even killed, they kept their mind focused on equality and justice for all. While they were grieving, while they were campaigning, and while they were living, their minds were kept on equality and justice for all. But it's not only the challenges that can deter you from getting to the prize. Sometimes it's the little successes along the way as well. About a year and a half ago, I had the incredible privilege to be in a meeting with the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and he was asked to share about the impact of their legacy. And with incredible humility, he said this: we needed to go deeper. Here is a man who could really, sit back on his laurels and celebrate, all the glorious successes and transformations that he's been part of helping to achieve. But because his mind was set on the prize, he says, we need to go deeper. To show you just how powerful determination is, I want to share a story from the Bible. And there's some of us who know that the Bible is the word of God, and there's some of us who don't believe that. And but you do know that the Bible is an incredible repository of stories that have stood the test of time for centuries. And for that reason alone, we should pay attention to it. And this particular story is about the Israelites who had seen incredible miracles and victories. They saw the Red Sea part, the Jordan part, the wall of Jericho fell. They were deposing kings left, right, and center and inheriting the promised land. And now Moses had died, Joshua had grown old, and there was a little bit of land yet to be taken. But the Canaanites who dwelt in the land were determined to live there. And so the Israelites, with all of their history of successes and having a promise from God, were not able to drive them out because they were determined to live in the land. Now, there's a corollary to that, which we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes. But for now, it's just that power of determination. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave us some insight into why determination is so powerful when he was asked to share on why the nonviolent approach works. And he says this: he says that the act of nonviolence does not immediately change the heart of the oppressor. It first does something in the hearts and souls of those committed to it. It gives them new self-respect. It calls up resources of strength and courage that they did not know they had. So the reason that determination works is that first, it works in you, and then it works for you. And the determined mind, as incredible as it is not as phenomenal as a collection of determined minds coming together. Another biblical story, this was after the flood, all the people of the earth spoke the same language. And they came together and decided they were going to build a tower to heaven. God looked down and said, the people are of one mind. So this thing that they've determined to do, they will achieve it. The only way God could stop people from achieving what they determined to do was to confound their language, to give them different languages, and they scattered to different parts of the earth, speaking different languages, so they could not come together to build that tower. Their mind, their determination was going to get them to a place that they were not going to be able to handle. And that's the corollary that I alluded to earlier of that first story of the Canaanites who dwelt in the land because they were determined to live there. But later on, as the Israelites grew stronger because the land was promised to them, they were able to force the Canaanites to pay tribute in order to live in the land. So they had to pay fines or fees or taxes. They had to pay tribute to the Israelites because they were the ones who had been promised that land. And that's an important thing about determination. It's so powerful. It can get you to wherever you set your mind to, even if that is not your rightful place. But if you do that, you will one day have to pay tribute to the rightful owner. On the other hand, when we look at the impact it had on the Israelites, because they were not as determined to have the land as the people who were there were determined to live in it, even though they had a promise from God. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why it might be for you that you have something that you know you were created to do, or that was promised to you, and you lack the determination to make it happen. Perhaps they'd had all of the successes so far and they were reveling in those stories, and they just didn't need to anything more. You know, they were quite happy with the status quo. Perhaps they didn't know how great the land was going to be, so they lacked the motivation and the drive to really keep their minds focused on achieving it. You know, it's hard to fill a cup that's already full. If they didn't know that there was more for them to achieve and they feel full, they lack the desire to keep going for more. And so an important lesson for us, if there's something that we know is something that we are called to do, that we get determined and we stay determined. So I want to speak a blessing over you. If you're doing what you were created to do, I want to speak the blessing of determination, that when doubts come, you just see doubts, honest doubts, as a precursor to true faith. You keep going anyway, and you stay determined. If there are failures or disappointments, if like Peter, you got out of the boat thinking you were going to walk on water and you start sinking, rather than focusing on the fact that you're beginning to sink, focus on the fact that you had the courage to leave the boat in the first place. Keep your mind focused on the prize and you will get there. If someone could determine something that was not even promised them from God and achieve it, how much more for someone who's doing something that you know you were called and created to do. So I want to encourage you in this season, this new 2022, with all the challenges that we've had and that we may have going forward. There are incredible breakthroughs waiting for you if you would stay determined. So I think I'm going to end with now just asking you to consider dreaming with me a little bit. Imagine what we could do if we had a determined and united mind together to tackle some of life's biggest issues. What if we could put our minds together to work on our relationships? What if we could put our minds together to work on climate change and social justice and racial equity and ending child trafficking and human kidnapping? What if we could put our minds together to work to end poverty and to create global prosperity? How incredible would that be when we put this magnificent thing that's called determination to work to build a better place? So If that is you, I want to invite you to join the I Will Tell family, where we bring you incredible stories of people just like that, who determine to change the world. So be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you put some comments in the channel as well. We want to hear what you think. We want to interact with you. And of course, you can connect with us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram, the other social media platforms. Sign up to our newsletter so you can keep in touch. So once again, thank you for joining us. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And remember to stay determined.